The Chicago morning moved fast, all steel trains and impatient horns, as Lauren Whitmore sat in the back seat of her sleek black sedan. She reviewed market reports on her tablet, her expression calm but distant, the face of a woman who ruled Whitmore Capital with precision. Success had taught her discipline, but it had also taught her loneliness, something she rarely allowed herself to feel. As the car slowed near a quiet stretch of road, the engine coughed once, then died without warning. The driver tried to fix it again and again, but the car refused to respond, forcing Lauren to step out into the cold air. For the first time that morning, control slipped from her hands. Not far away, Marcus Reed hurried down the sidewalk, his tie slightly loose and his breath shallow with urgency. Today was his chance, the interview that could finally pull him out of years of rejection and financial struggle. When he noticed the broken-down car and the woman standing beside it, he hesitated, checking the time on his phone. Every second mattered, yet something about her quiet frustration made him stop. Lauren waved him over, explaining that her car had suddenly failed and she had an important meeting to attend. Marcus sighed softly, knowing help would cost him dearly, but he chose to stay. He opened the hood, working with steady hands as traffic rushed past them without concern. Lauren watched him in silence, surprised by his focus and the way he treated her like an ordinary stranger. Marcus explained he was late for an interview at a financial firm, but spoke without bitterness or complaint. After several tense minutes, the engine roared back to life, breaking the stillness between them. Lauren smiled with genuine relief, thanking him warmly and offering to repay his kindness someday. Marcus only nodded, already turning away, unaware he had just helped the woman who held his future. As he hurried off toward the towering glass building of Whitmore Capital, Lauren returned to her car, thoughtful and unsettled. She could not explain why the encounter stayed with her longer than the usual inconveniences of her day. There was something rare in his choice, something unpolished yet deeply principled. By the time her car pulled into the company driveway, Marcus was already running late. Neither of them knew that this brief delay had quietly rewritten the path of their lives. Fate, patient and unseen, had just begun its work. Inside the sleek Whitmore Capital interview room, candidates waited nervously, resumes clutched tightly in their hands. Monica Reynolds, Lauren's assistant, moved with practiced efficiency, collecting papers and offering polite nods. Among the applicants, her cousin Ethan stood out with charm rather than skill, a discrepancy she chose to ignore. After a few minutes, she dismissed the interview panel, leaving Ethan alone in the room under her watchful eye. She reviewed his resume quickly, noting the gaps but deciding to push him forward anyway. Favoritism had replaced merit, and she smiled to herself, confident she had secured the role for someone she could control. Meanwhile, Marcus arrived in the lobby, breathless and slightly disheveled, his suit immaculate despite his rush. He explained to Monica that he was there for the project manager interview, but she glanced at her watch and frowned. The interview had technically ended, she said, taking his resume reluctantly and promising to call if necessary. Marcus handed it over politely, hiding the frustration and pride in his composed expression. He left the office quietly, unaware that he had just brushed past his future in disguise. The opportunity seemed gone, and yet, something deeper was already in motion. Lauren entered moments later, striding through the lobby with her usual calm authority. She recognized Marcus immediately, the man who had helped her with the car, and stopped him in the hallway. Their conversation was casual yet tinged with an unspoken connection, a quiet spark that neither could ignore. Lauren thanked him again, sincerely this time, curious about his presence at her company. She demanded answers from Monica, who explained Marcus had applied but was late and that Ethan had already been offered the role. Lauren's eyes narrowed slightly, a decision forming as she realized that talent had just walked past her unnoticed. Monica, slightly flustered, was ordered to offer Marcus any available position in the company. Out of spite and obligation, she offered him a janitorial role, an insult disguised as an opportunity. Marcus accepted with quiet dignity, knowing the role was temporary and willing to prove himself in any capacity. He began work without complaint, moving through the halls of Whitmore Capital unseen but not unnoticed. Meanwhile, Ethan settled into his new position, confident in his supposed victory, unaware of the challenges ahead. The stage was set for the quiet but unstoppable rise of the man they had underestimated. Ethan's first assignment was a major financial restructuring project, one that demanded precision and insight. Confident in his charm rather than expertise, he made bold decisions that quickly triggered warning signs. Numbers began to misalign, reports contained errors, and the executives grew restless, sensing disaster looming. Lauren, alerted to the unfolding crisis, called an emergency meeting, frustration evident in her usually calm demeanor. Marcus, quietly performing his janitorial duties nearby, overheard the discussions and noted critical inconsistencies. He realized he could help without drawing attention, his knowledge of finance surpassing expectations. Late that evening, Marcus approached Lauren with a concise plan, identifying errors and proposing corrective measures. She listened intently, impressed by the clarity, depth, and logic in his suggestions, surprised he could solve what others could not. Marcus explained his approach carefully, demonstrating a keen understanding of economic patterns and financial strategies. Lauren asked him what position he had originally applied for, curious about the man behind such insight. When he revealed he had sought the project manager role, her surprise turned to decisive action. On the day of defending the company's financial plans, Marcus stepped into the grand boardroom, his heart steady despite the intimidating presence of Whitmore Capital's executives and a room full of key investors. Monica and Ethan sat at the head of the table, trying to hide their unease, while Lauren watched silently from the side, curious about his approach. He unfolded the detailed plan he had crafted while performing his cleaning duties, each sheet filled with charts, projections, and financial models. Marcus began to speak, his voice calm but firm, explaining how minor adjustments in resource allocation and investment strategy could dramatically boost profits. Every calculation was precise, each assumption backed by data and careful economic reasoning, showing the depth of his financial acumen. The room, initially tense and skeptical, grew quiet as the investors leaned forward, captivated by the clarity of his vision. He anticipated questions before they were asked, addressing potential risks and presenting contingency strategies with confidence and ease. Lauren's eyes widened as she saw the reaction of the board members, nodding subtly at his insights, impressed by his foresight and professionalism. Monica's smile faltered, and Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his chair, realizing that their preferred plan lacked both precision and depth. Marcus's explanations were not just numbers, they told a story of stability, growth, and opportunity, something investors instantly recognized. Questions came from the investors, probing and challenging, but Marcus answered each with poise, never flustered, his knowledge commanding respect. With each confident response, the initial skepticism melted, replaced by enthusiasm and the desire to commit to the proposed strategy. By the end of the meeting, pens were moving, deals were being signed, and the investors exchanged approving glances, energized by the potential profits Marcus had unveiled. Lauren stood silently, pride and amazement in her eyes, realizing that this man she had once passed in the hallway had just saved the company. Monica and Ethan sat frozen, their incompetence and favoritism exposed in front of everyone, shame creeping across their faces. Marcus calmly collected his papers, not gloating but satisfied, knowing that his knowledge and dedication had turned the tide. In that moment, the power dynamic shifted completely, and everyone in the room recognized that Marcus was no longer just an employee, he was the company's savior. Investors shook hands with him personally, praising his insight and assuring Lauren of their full commitment to the plan. The tension that had dominated the boardroom hours ago dissolved into relief, excitement, and respect for Marcus's brilliance. Even the janitorial staff passing by the room paused briefly, sensing the extraordinary change in the company's fortune. Lauren approached Marcus afterward, her expression a mix of admiration, gratitude, and something warmer, a spark that had begun months ago on that roadside. Monica and Ethan were left speechless, their failures stark in comparison, understanding that talent, not favoritism, had truly secured the future. Marcus quietly returned to his desk, but from that day forward, no one doubted that he was the man who could guide Whitmore Capital to new heights. Lauren asked him what position he had originally applied for, curious about the man behind such insight. When he revealed he had sought the project manager role, her surprise turned to decisive action. She immediately fired Ethan and Monica, recognizing their incompetence and favoritism had endangered the company. Marcus was promoted on the spot to project manager, his diligence and skill now acknowledged officially. Over time, his professionalism, integrity, and quiet strength earned Lauren's admiration and respect. Late nights collaborating on projects turned into personal conversations, shared laughter, and unspoken attraction. Lauren discovered the warmth behind Marcus's humility, while he admired her vision, intelligence, and fairness. 2 years later, their professional partnership blossomed into romance, and they married surrounded by colleagues and friends. From a chance roadside encounter to saving a company and finding love, their journey proved that integrity and courage never go unnoticed. The office at Whitmore Capital never forgot the story of Marcus Reed, the man who fixed more than a car. Employees spoke in hushed tones of how the janitor became the project manager and then a trusted partner to the CEO. Lauren and Marcus's love became an inspiration, a reminder that opportunity favors the prepared and the kind-hearted. Even Monica and Ethan's failures served as a cautionary tale about arrogance, favoritism, and underestimating others. In the end, the company thrived under Marcus's leadership, with Lauren by his side, both personally and professionally. Their lives intertwined, proving that sometimes the smallest acts of help can change everything forever.